Once again, it's good. It's good to see you. Good evening, good morning, good afternoon. It's good to see you. The second day of this symposium on the Osofisan, Decoloniality and the Repositioning of Western Modernity, which is a symposium celebrated in honor of the 77th birthday of the Nigerian playwright Femi Osofisan. It's organized by the Ibadan Literary Society. Yesterday, we had the two lectures. The lectures are already on our YouTube channel. I'll share the link before we leave today and also send the link to your email addresses. Today, we are going to watch two plays by Femi Osofisan on the theme of Pan-Africanism. The first play, Nkrumani Africani, which is the original version, it's been later divided into two forms, A Night of the Elephant and A Night with the Elephant, the Conakry dialogues. Nkrumani Africani is about Kwame Nkrumah, Sekou Touré, and Amilcar Cabral in Conakry during the late 1960s and early 1970s. Kwame Nkrumah, by way of introduction, I'll just say brief few words before I start sharing the play. Kwame Nkrumah, and this note is taken from the notes from the script and from my own notes. Kwame Nkrumah, known immemorially as the Osagefo, which means the victor, was the first leader of a Black independent African country, Ghana. Ghana obtained independence from Britain in 1957. The British colonialists had called the territory the Gold Coast, but under the Osagefo, it changed its name to Ghana in echo of the great African empire of that name. Nkrumah was a nationalist, a socialist, and a dogged apostle of Pan-Africanism. And he welcomed to Ghana many of the liberation movements, to the great annoyance of the Western powers in those days of the Cold War. And the second play, A Nightingale for the Boys, is about Dr. W.E.B. Du Bois, whom Kwame Nkrumah invited to Ghana in 1963, when he was 93 years old. And the third play, Kenu, it's about the women who are involved in the Pan-African movement. I'll talk more about them before we watch the other play. In 1965, while Kwame Nkrumah was in China on a peace mission to end the war in Vietnam, a coup d'etat was carried out in Ghana, replacing its regime with that of a self-declared National Liberation Council, led by the triumvirate of military officers Emmanuel Kotoka, Akwasi Afrifa, and the police officer, John Halley. At once, Nkrumah received several invitations from friendly progressive countries, but chose in the end to go to Guinea, where his friend Sekou Touré was in power. It was supposed to be a brief stay, but he was to remain in Conakry for the next 6 years until he died in 1972. Touré himself was another African leader who had achieved notoriety by daring Western imperialism. In 1958, he had said a big no to France. He had gone against the France General de Gaulle, who wanted to retain all the French African countries, now called Francophone countries, in a seemingly free but actually servile relationship with France. Acceding to this choice of complete autonomy, France had pulled out of Guinea in anger, withdrawing all its personnel, its imported equipment, its financial credits, even telephone wires and roads were disrupted and telephone wires ripped off the walls when France was leaving Guinea. Thus, it was to this extremely proud country of Guinea, but a country that was also caught in the grip of political and economic turbulence that Kwame Nkrumah went. And interestingly also, it was to find in Conakry at that particular time the headquarters of the African Party for the Independence of Guinea-Bissau and Cape Verde. The liberation movement headed by Amilcar Cabral, and which was engaged then in a bitter armed conflict with the Portuguese colonialists next door in Guinea-Bissau. So by strange coincidence of history, three of the most radical African leaders lived together in this small town of Conakry for 6 full years. They met, according to reports, almost every day to talk and work out the strategies for the full emancipation of Africa and the formation of the United States of Africa. But sadly, no record of their discussion exists. But what did these three remarkable figures discuss in those years? What in their death has Africa lost or gained? And this is what Femi Osofisan was trying to recapture in this first play that we're going to watch, Nkrumah Africani. Just before I start sharing, I'll just share the dramatic personnel of the play so that we know who is who in the play. If you just bear with me. You can see that this is Kwame Nkrumah, and I've titled this Kwame Nkrumah African, a reflection on the ideals of Pan-Africanism. Kwame Nkrumah, Sekou Touré, and Amilcar Cabral. This play was performed by the Abibi Groma troupe in 1994 for the African Literature Association Conference at the W.E.B. Du Bois Memorial Center for Pan-African Culture in Accra, Ghana. Now, the dramatic personnel, as you can see, are divided into three roughly forms. We have the leaders, Kwame Nkrumah, Sekou Touré, and Amilcar Cabral. And then we have the women, and the nephew and the family of Touré and Nkrumah. Touré, Jane. Jane is the secretary to, or was the secretary to Kwame Nkrumah. And actually most of this script, it relies on the diary or the records of letters and correspondences that she kept. Keita and Yamike. And then we have the personnel, Yankee, Sana, Safo, Apo, Ampa. But the more important aspect is the jesters who disrupt the course of the dramatic encounter at more key moments in the play. But I'm not going to say much about that. I will just allow us to watch about 40 minutes of this play, and then we discuss. The performance, as you can imagine, was recorded. It's a stage play recorded with one camera in the 90s. So, and because of what Zoom sometimes does, I've uploaded the the plays to Vimeo, so you can see a better quality version of the play. So I'm going to start now.
Hey, everybody, listen to the rhythm of the boom and say yeah, 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 yeah. Listen to the rhythm of the bass and say yeah, 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 yeah. It must be, it will be, it must be.
as much to learn.
I think he knows that. And I think that's why he's so fond of you. Thank you.
So you see now, why I have to be here? It wasn't easy leaving my troops at the front. But he's like a big brother to me.
So it's bad again at the constant.
Horrible, Jimmy. They are bombing their villages with napalm. Napalm, Jim! I don't think you know what it does to you.
Yes. I was looking for a good place to pause, stop. I think this about a good place as it is. Once again, I do apologize about the volume, the sound. It was recorded with one camera in 1994, 29 years ago, nearly, or more than 29 years ago. But we've worked on a version for this symposium, and we've put that on our video channel and the YouTube channel. I've shared the video in the chat. I will share it again, and the YouTube channel. What you've been watching is the first part one of Nkrumah Africani, which is titled Cabral, which is supposed to be the story of Cabral. And as you notice, the play starts on the morning of the burial of Kwame Nkrumah. And then we have flashback to Nkrumah's life in Conakry, where we have all this play on words and play on and games and exercise between Cabral and Nkrumah. The significance for me of Nkrumah Africani is that it was written by the playwright Femi Osofisan as the subject of inquiry, and it explores his feelings and thoughts. Also, it comments on the relationship between the three leaders, Nkrumah, Cabral, and Sékou Touré, and their commitment to a United States of Africa. However, it does not debate the probability of such a union of states. That's not the remit of the play. It, however, it contextualizes the historiography surrounding the relationship between the leaders. As a dramatic text, the playwright himself agrees to it. It's quite wordy and quite long. It's in first production, it was about 3 hours long. And now it's been divided into two, A Night of the Elephant and A Night with the Elephant. But you must admit that this play has an appeal to us, I posted a question or a line of discussion in the chat that what do we think of Osofisan's recuperation of the idea of Pan-Africanism? But I have Wale Olugunle saying that actually what we should do is our Nollywood producers should, not just the Nollywood producers, and even producer and theater and dramatic and performing arts students should adapt all these historical plays. Don't know why. I know you are here to watch a play, but I just thought we should have a little bit of discussion on this.
Do you want comments from us now?
Yes, because I don't think we can watch the whole almost 3 hours, and I just want us to discuss it and then move on to the next play for the next segment. Or we've spent about 50 minutes now. But if it's the consensus that we should continue watching, well, I'm for it. I'm for that.
No, personally, I think it's a good idea that we have a little bit of discussion. The recording is not the best.
No.
We can hardly hear what they're saying. So I think it will be subjecting us to punishment, further punishment, watching it.
Not my intention.
I know, no, I was just, but I think on the the play itself, the significance of the play, I think it's historically important because, you know, it's very remarkable that for a period of time, these three radical leaders, at least at that time, even though they turned, you know, a bit on the other side later, but at that time, they were together, they were formulating ideas. We talked of modernity yesterday and the African situation, and this is our own reality, this is our own modernity that they were crafting in the way that they thought fit after the colonial oppression. So emerging from it, and as Leke said yesterday, looking for agency. And I think this is an important documentation. Too often we sort of sweep our politicians under the carpet and just ignore, forget what they do. And the perception of them, especially the younger generation, gets clouded by, again, Western dominance in method of communication and method of the knowledge production and circulation. So this is very important. On another forum yesterday, Professor Akachi mentioned that her class had no idea who Amata Aidu is, and it was shocking. So we need both the, you know, every avenue of information, of how we collect knowledge, to be aware of our past so we can move into the future in a better way. So that's, you know, I'm just talking about the significance of this play. I wanted to say I was in the audience actually in that recording in 1944, in 1994, because I was in Ghana then for the ALA conference. So, and it was very remarkable. I think, if I remember quite well, it was a bit emotional for Ghanaians to see the Osagyefo, you know, being represented.
Yes, it was then, because no other play had been done about him. He was almost buried in the people's consciousness until this play in 1994. And with the international audience that was there then, and the Ghanaians and the Abibi Grumar group, it was quite emotional. I agree with you. Thank you for that. But, you know, this play for me, Osofisan highlights three main problems with what we just talked about, our lack of perception of our historical past, you know, and what went wrong, you know, with our leadership and also with our followership. And that is, and possibly this is why we think the idea of Pan-Africanism as an ideal for other African leaders to follow have failed, you know. And for me, the first thing is the major leader, the leaders at that time, all maybe they were wrongly influenced by the Cold War. They, like you mentioned, they turned bad, you know. They became corrupt, you know, both in their ideals and physically. They became more nepotistic and fearful of those who could also collaborate with them to create the new Africa. You know, they had this idea that they were the repository of all knowledge of what was best for the continent, for their countries, and nobody else or anybody else who came up with any idea was seen as a rival who was intent on disposing them or displacing them from power, which I think we're still suffering from in Africa, you know. But the third point is most of the time we try to think our problem is with the West, you know, that the colonial masters are still controlling the source of our revenue and the way we live our lives, which in a way may be true, but most of the problem actually lies with our own receivership of what we get from the West and lack of trust among ourselves and our leaders. The latest inform is what is happening now in Sudan, for instance, or what is happening in Rwanda. You know, Rwanda is a doyen of the West now, but a lot of things are happening there about the suppression of the people. In Sudan, where we have the war. In Libya, we have the situation there. You know, so all this are happening, and we are not even mentioning places like Cameroon, where the president is, or the head of state, somewhere in France. You know. So what Osofisan is saying there, and this is where I agree with you, Professor Ajayi, is that what are we supposed to be doing? It's like it's questioning us. What should we be doing as Africans to realize ourselves, to recognize ourselves, to recontextualize our own existence? What should we be doing? I mean, Wale's idea about making films about all these ideas is a good thing. Wale, I'm going to call you, yes, Wale Olugunle. Yeah. You muted.
Privilege. Can you hear me, bro?
Yeah, we can hear you now.
Yeah. Thank you very much for the privilege. And I am very, very grateful for the opportunity. The fact that I am a very young scholar who is still on his PhD. As a matter of fact, I just started last year, and it's been really interesting to be here. Now, as regards what Professor Ajayi said, and I tried to understand the fulcrum of this symposium, which is decoloniality, which interests me very well. And it is at the same time instrumental to my research interest, Africana philosophy and African literature. Now, I think there is a question you raised, Professor Shaladian. There's a question you asked that why is it like that? Was it that our leaders, was it that African leaders, they they were exposed kind of? I began to say no, it is not because they were exposed. Personally, I think it has to do with individual, let me say idiosyncrasy this time around. How they themselves want to perpetuate themselves in power. And as a result of that, they want to, they don't know that they are ignorantly, you know, foisting poverty, destroying the collective consciousness or awareness of the masses. And again, you ask the question that what should we do? That reminds me of Harvey's in one of our work that says we lecturers, we teachers, we should be conscious of what we teach, of what we impact, of what we give to our students. Now, you as a person, I as a person, what do I teach my students? vis-a-vis the future of Africa, vis-a-vis Africanism, vis-a-vis the unity of Africa. And again, this Tejada in our work proposed uh, uh, the I am forgetting right now, but I will remember. She proposed pensée à ça, which is action, thinking and doing, thinking and doing. What is common to we contemporary scholars is that we tend to think more and less of action. And this is what Fanon told us, or this is what Fanon writes about in his Wretched of the Earth, in his Black Panorama Blanc, in Towards African Revolution, and all that. And this is the same thing that African diasporic writers, that is the same thing they are clamoring for, that we should think and act and less of thinking. If we the more we think, the more passive we become. But when we put our thought into action, we tend to have results. And that is where the concept of decoloniality comes in. We have to start to think outside the box of Eurocentric framework. We have to we have to stop acting. We have to stop dancing to the gallery of Euro modernity, where um permit me to speak in Yoruba torí ibi tí mo wà yìí mi lè sọ òyìnbó. Ṣẹ́rí, yes, ó ní àwọn nǹkan kan tí àwọn òyìnbó ń gbé wá fún wa ní Áfríkà ń sìn, tó jẹ́ pé àwọn leaders wa ní Áfríkà wọn ò rò dáadáa. Ó ní mi ì rí, kò sí ní it is not in the diction of Africa. Ọ̀rọ̀ tí mo fẹ́ sọ èyí lóòótọ́ olúkálukú ní divergent opinion nípa ẹ̀ o, bíi pé ká máa yí ara wa padà kúrò ní ọkùnrin sí obìnrin, kí a máa yí ara wa padà kúrò ní obìnrin sí ọkùnrin. Ẹ rí i pé àwọn òyìnbó, àwọn orílẹ̀-èdè tó ti tẹ̀síwájú, wọn ò wá sí ilẹ̀ adúláwọ̀ láti wá bá wa sọ bí a ṣe fẹ́ tẹ̀síwájú. Wọn ò wá sí ilẹ̀ adúláwọ̀ láti wá bá wa sọ bí a ṣe fẹ́ kúrò nínú ìṣẹ́. Wọn ò wá sí ilẹ̀ adúláwọ̀ láti wá bá wa sọ, wọ́n wá ń bá wa sọ ọ̀rọ̀ nípa yíyí ara wa padà láti ọkùnrin sí obìnrin. Ṣé ìyẹn ló kàn fún wa ní Áfríkà? Wọn ò wá bá wa sọ bí wọ́n ṣe fẹ́ mú kí ayé ìrọ̀rùn kó dé bá wa ní Áfríkà. Wọ́n wá ń bá wa sọ pé àwa là ń ba ojú ọjọ́ jẹ́. Wọ́n sọ nípa we should not use coal, rather we should use biodegradable and all that. Ṣé ìyẹn là ń sọ? Now, coming back to English now, these are Euro modernity that these people are trying to force down on us. And the concept of decoloniality requires us to critically think, then and act. And what is this action we need to take? It is the rejection of everything that is within the box, that is within the European episteme.
Well, I think I would disagree with you there. We can't reject everything because, going with what you said in Yoruba, the idea is look what is exactly going to be right for us. But you're right. We just seem to be accepting without even adapting. We're accepting rather than questioning, and rather than coming up with our own ideas. Which I think you are right in that one. Oh, sorry, I didn't realize your hand is off. Pelumi, Please
Yeah.
go ahead.
Thank you, sir. I actually raised my hand before you responded
Yeah, that's what I
to
said.
Wole.
Yeah, sorry.
Yeah, to Wole Olugunle. If you had responded earlier, perhaps I would not have raised my hand because Wole was I was impressed by his remarks until he said we should not accept European modernity, and I began to feel worried. Europe has contributed a lot. In fact, America has also contributed a lot to learning, to knowledge. We cannot ignore them. They have contributed a lot. I read Victorian literature. I read Renaissance literature, and I was impressed by the magnitude of contributions that these people have made. Even the Greeks, they have produced a lot. We cannot ignore them. We must benefit from them. We must interact with them. Yesterday, Professor Adeleke Adekos said something like, I can't quote him exactly, so I should not go back to that. But he said something similar to the fact that he does not have evidence that Osofisan dances to European epistemology or something like that. Don't trust what I said about it. Don't trust what I just said because I can't remember vividly. But I am aware that Europe has contributed so much that we cannot ignore them. We must continue to benefit from them, just as they have also significantly benefited from us. You know, it's an interaction. You can't stay on your own. You must interact. Or Shoinkas, the Bacchae of Euripides, for example. Osofisan's Tegoni, for example. These are works that have benefited significantly from Europe. We can't ignore such contributions. That's my intervention. Thank you.
I agree with you on that. You know, this is a very interesting discussion going on here. I don't know if anybody wants to, because it's not just between the three of us. Does anybody wants to contribute to this? I think we all agreed that we need to rethink our position as Africans. You know, we need to rethink, but the way we do it is the question. Do we go back to what our former forefathers were doing, or do we create new ideas based on our own life, on what is going on nowadays? I mean, Wally did mention things like the whole idea of climate change, you know, indirectly. You know, do we accept the idea of climate change hook, line, and sinker, or do we moderate it and mediate it to apply to what goes on in Africa? And so those are some of the questions that we can look at. Pelumi, the comment you were trying to make or recite from Professor Adeko's lecture yesterday is in the recording, and I've just posted the link to the recording for those of us who wants to listen and watch again. And of course, Jama will be sending you an email, will be sending everybody an email with links to the recordings and YouTube and everything after all this. Right. It's Wally. Is that an old hand or a new hand?
No, it's new hand, bro.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Go on.
Yeah.
And after that, we go to
Yeah.
Nightingale. Yeah.
The next. Okay. Once again, thank you very much. In quick reaction to what Pelumi just said, it is not possible. No man, no continent is an island. There is what Wole Soyinka call a cultural syncretism. Now, it is practically impossible for Africa to negate, to totally avoid the West. It is not possible because the West has, the West exists because of their relationship with Africa, And the West has also contributed to Africa. But my point is we need to sieve and sift, read in between the lines, all the policies. Then we read to the thank you. You know, the West is up and going up and down now because of the revolution, because of the renaissance that is bettered currently in African leaders. As we can see now, China is trying to, put trying to gain ground, and US is trying to, win back Africa. Now, what is there is that the renaissance or the revolution that is being birthed is telling the West that these people are waking up and we should continue to wake up. Whatever proposition they bring, we should read in between the lines. It should be win-win for parties involved and not to the detriment of Africa. That's all I will say for now. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Wale. Thank you, Pelumi. Maybe what we should do is actually organize a round table with just the two of you. Well, it won't be a round table, it will be a rectangular table, to carry on this
Incidentally,
discussion.
sir, Wale and I are neighbors.
So you're busy arguing every morning.
Yes. Thank you, sir.
That's good. Right. Now, without much ado, I think we should move on to the next play. It's also a very long play, A Nightingale for Dr. Du Bois. There's a similarity in the beginning of it. It's at the funeral of Dr. Du Bois after his death in 1963, similar to Nkrumah Afrikaner, which also starts at the funeral for Kwame Nkrumah in 1972. So in 1961, Dr. Du Bois went to live in Accra, Ghana, at the invitation of the president, Kwame Nkrumah Osagefo. At that time, he was already 93. So his extraordinary life was almost over. And all the great landmark achievements he's known for and remembered for were already behind him. Indeed, he died just 2 years later in August 1963. In a sense, therefore, it seemed as if the man had only gone to Ghana to find a congenial place outside of America to spend his last days. Because of their advanced age, what we had was that Dr. Du Bois and his wife, Shelley, lived quietly in a cottage in Accra, and the general belief, therefore, was that they did not make much impact on the nation and local citizenry. However, in the course of a research project on the subject, the playwright, Femi Osofisan, went to Ghana and was introduced to the nurse, now late Colonel Christine Deborah, who was the nurse to the departed couple. And when she began to talk, the whole Du Bois narrative changed entirely. And we realized that in the 2 years, he wrote copiously, he thought a lot, and contributed a lot to the government of Kwame Nkrumah. One important diversion in this play from Nkrumah Afrikaner is that this play, although it says A Nightingale for Dr. Du Bois, it's about the life of Shelley Du Bois and that of the nurse, Colin Christine Deborah, and the other people, other women involved in Pan-Africanism, Efua Sutherland, Maya Angelou, who was in Ghana at the same time, and Maris Konde, who was also in Ghana at the same time. So these were foils to Dr. Du Bois's thoughts at that time in those 2 years. So once again, I need to today is a day of apologies. I need to apologize for it's not the sound quality this time around, it's the lighting quality of this stage play. The effect was more of to capture the surreal general effect of the Yoruba nation. That's what Segun Ojewuyi tried to achieve. So you find a lot of darkness, a lot of mixed lighting in the performance. But again, we've tried to put a different version, a lightened version on video and YouTube version. So I'll just play about 25 minutes of this, and then we have a brief discussion to conclude this. Bear with me, let's find it.
Our character is built around the late kind of Christine Deborah, that charismatic and incomparable, fascinating personality. It's recreated here as a symbol of progressive African womanhood in the late 1950s and the early 1960s. Nevertheless, and I stress this is a work of fiction, a creation entirely of our own imaginative will, and it has only a very unfactual history. Many of the events here simply did not happen, or happened differently than the way we present them. You'll get to know us better very soon. We are the Nightingale who adapt her to voice, and this memorial is all about you. When in 1961, Dr. Du Bois came to live in Accra at the invitation of Ghanaian President Osagyefo Kwame Nkrumah, he was already 93. His extraordinary life was almost over therefore, but all the great landmark achievements that he is known and remembered for were still echoing across the world. Indeed, he died 2 years later, in August 1963, on the eve of the civil rights movement in America and at the dawn of Africa's independence from colonialism. Fantasy, we must always remember, is the poet's magic wand to weave his dreams. It is to this fabulous world that I invite all of you, fellow dreamers, to follow me.
Carry
So from there, I had to struggle to attain some schooling.
the bathroom. One day, one of my teachers, a British woman, you know, by then they were the people here, the British people. One day, we met in Accra. It was at Kingsley Stars, I remember very well. I'd gone there with some friends, and this kind British woman said to me, "Well, my goodness, Nina, what are you doing with yourself? Why don't you come and see me?" I'd been invited for 4 o'clock, but by 12 I was all ready. Put on my little dress, the only one I had, and went and sat a few yards away from the house, her house, waiting. So, 4 o'clock, I went in and knocked. They were expecting me, her and her husband. A cup of tea, we drank, and after a while the husband left us. Then she said, "Let us pray." So we prayed. Then she asked, "Well, by your background, you need a job that, even if you marry, you can still work, and that job is midwifery or nursing. So, let me give you this letter to the hospital." I went. There, at Corlebu, the matron took the note, she read, called her second in command. She came, and I was handed over to a nurse. That is how I started my nursing work, at Corlebu. But it didn't last. Fate is never on my side, I know that now. Because you see, by then, if you get married, you have to resign, whether you're a teacher or a nurse. Married women weren't allowed to work. And so, charming as I was put in 2 years, and my nursing profession came to an end.
Down by the riverside,
the one we know the least. Sadly, there are no black heroes in our world because black people themselves do not remember them. Yes, we have a genius for celebrating other people's gods, for dancing their dances, for singing their songs, but ours. So, who was Dr. William Edward Bigheart Du Bois? Why did President Kwame Nkrumah invite him to Accra? Well, as he told me himself, Dr. Du Bois was born in 1868 and came here in 1961 at almost 100 years old. He was a Pan-Africanist. I know, you wonder, what is Pan-Africanism? Well, as I've come to learn, it is the simple idea that forges the political and economic union of all the indigenous peoples of Africa. Dr. Du Bois was a scholar, historian, and activist. The first black person in America, a descendant of slaves, to receive a PhD from Harvard University. He was one of the founding leaders of the Niagara movement. With the Niagara movement, he and others led the call for the world to oppose segregation and racial discrimination in America. They were tireless, taking the campaign all over the world. But this man, Dr. Du Bois himself, he was a determined man of knowledge. He even stood against fellow black Americans, speaking strongly against policies of accommodation and conciliation promoted by black American leaders such as Booker T. Washington.
In the wake of a major race riot in Springfield, Illinois in August 1908, a number of prominent civil rights activists called for a major conference on race relations. This call, as he told me, would lead to a meeting held in New York that helped him and another friend in laying the foundation for the National Association for the Advancement of Colored Peoples, which was formally established in 1910. In 1911, Dr. Du Bois was appointed the NAACP's Director of Publication, the main voice of the movement for many years. Dr. Du Bois believed that capitalism was the root of slavery and racism, and that white people and black people should have equal rights. He said when the Communist Party was banned in America, he decided to stand up for the right of people to speak freely and to have the choice of party they felt were good for them. He was therefore condemned to participating in un-Ghanaian and un-American activities. But that part still confuses me. For example, how can someone born in Ghana, a Ghanaian, be accused of participating in un-Ghanaian activities just for speaking up for ordinary folks? So, I'm a woman. If I speak for women to have the same voice, the same right to sin, is that un-Ghanaian? Anyway, in 1960, Dr. Du Bois recovered his passport and was able to cross the Atlantic, the same ocean that had taken his African ancestors into its slavery. He first visited Nigeria to celebrate the inauguration of Nnamdi Azikiwe as the first African governor of Nigeria. Then he met Kwame Nkrumah again, and in October 1961, at the age of 93, him and his wife Shirley had taken residence in Ghana. Now, in early 1963, in his effort to join the March on Washington, he tried to renew his passport, but was refused by the American government. In response, he became a citizen of Ghana.
Yes, back to his roots again. Well, you see, my friends, who is going to inspire us to greatness when we ourselves do not recognize or remember our heroes? We easily hear of how our brothers and sisters across the sea have forgotten to write songs and make hay of their heroes, like Dr. Du Bois, Malcolm X, and many more.
That's a lovely group you've got out there, Shirley.
Let's hope the Osajepo will be pleased. It's his troop, as you well know. I've only groomed them a bit.
Lovely voices. Darling, I thank you so much for today, I can't tell you how happy I've been.
Yes, dear, I've been happy too.
One can now totally forget America and its woes. We're home at last.
Oh, yes, we can hardly ask for more.
Truly, marvelous day. The people of Ghana have been so kind to us.
All thanks to this lovely young man.
How fortunate Ghana is to be blessed with such a leader.
It's sweet to know that we won't ever be packing again to move anywhere.
The youth of Africa will succeed where we fail, surely. They've got so much zeal, so much energy.
Yes, they do. It's sweet to know that we won't be moving anywhere else.
We're home, and I can relax. Home, we know their prying eyes are still on us. But here is home, and I am at peace. I have no fear any longer about what will happen to you when I'm gone. You'll be in safe hands among friends.
Okay, but don't be talking about that now. You're still very much around. That's all that counts.
Listen to this. I was a little boy at home with strangers. I liked my playmates and knew well whence all their parents came. From England, Scotland, Royal France, from Germany, and off by chance the humble Emerald Isle. But my own brown skin and close curled hair was alien, and how it grew none knew. You tried to say some dropped a wondering word astray, some laughed instead. And then it came. I dreamed how up from hell a land had leaped, a wretched land all scorched and seemed its very air a shriek of death.
It's beautiful. See, even your girlfriend's
Oh, thanks, Nana. I've titled it Ghana Calls, but it's not right.
Finish it so we can give it to Kwame. Right, let me leave the two of you now.
You need to take it easy though, doctor. Remember, the heat's not good for you.
You're right. The president must pass a law about it.
About what?
The heat.
Oh, doctor. As for you, shall I help you take it off?
Oh, this splendid gown, you must be kidding. I plan on wearing this to bed.
Oh, doctor. Now that's something the president must pass a law about. We wish I'd gone to the castle today to inform him that an academic gown is not a pajamas.
So you didn't go to the president's place then today to see his wife?
No, I told Madam Fatia to stay in all of today. I'll see her tomorrow.
What about Fatia? Something the matter with her?
Migraine.
Didn't know she suffered from that.
It started only recently, after Cologne.
For a woman, the shock must have been too much for her.
It was lucky I was there with her that day. Otherwise,
What happened?
when the president's away, and I had no other patients. You remember, doctor? You were away at Bucharest. You and Auntie. Well, on such days, I usually stay much longer in the castle. Fatty won't let me leave. We usually sit in the garden talk. That's how I get to know that the life of the president was. I'm finding the process. No problem. Everything's quite normal.
Don't tell me that. You know that'll only further encourage her to be reckless.
God for you. The way his was going, he'll probably outlive both of you.
As I said before, Mama, please call me Shirley.
Of course. What do you think in my tender age of 95?
Oh, I better tell you then. They'll be arriving soon, the president and his wife.
What? Here? In that case, I better be leaving then.
No, stay. You know they won't mind.
Well, but in these clothes?
Well, look in my wardrobe. I'm sure there'll be something that I can fit.
meet the president and his wife.
Oh my gosh, on time as ever! A glorious birthday to our esteemed father.
Oh, thank you.
We go to set it up in the morning, but we wanted to hand it to you personally.
Thank you. Oh, do sit down. Nana, put these in a vase, dear, and bring the parcel on the bed.
Ah, so our Florence Nightingale is here too.
Good evening, President, and Your Excellency, ma'am.
Hey, Nana, we are among friends here. Mama and Papa are like family to us, so there's no need for formality.
Okay, Batia, if the President doesn't mind,
Oh, come on, Nana. As for you, you know.
I'd ask her to come along. After the ceremonies on campus, the doctor was looking somewhat tired, and I
Thought that I would collapse. You hear that, Kwame? At my age of 95, these women, they think we're vegetables.
No, if anyone's going to collapse from what I can see, it's certainly not you.
This is for your own birthday tomorrow, my dear Patrick.
Oh, thank you.
Congratulations, my dear, and you live a long life like me. For as you know, all things at last come in February.
Wow, lovely.
You like it? It's a silk painting I bought from Bucharest last month. Had to do the shopping every day while someone was lolling away on their hospital.
Lolling away. You're my witness, Kwame. I'm going to sue the divorce. Man, helpless, strapped to a miserable iron bed for weeks without his consent, couldn't move a single limb, couldn't even turn my body.
Translation, couldn't make a pass at the nurses.
Know a good lawyer, Kwame?
That's one of my office paid by the government of Ghana. The last time I used him, I lost the case.
Ah, just the chap I need. Who says I want to win?
So you're fully recovered then?
Those Romanian doctors, they fitted me with some funny contrivance and it stopped the pain. Now I'm live the rest of my life like some panel-beaten second-hand jalopy.
Stop complaining. You know why they couldn't operate. They said it would be too dangerous at your age.
Be patient, Papa. With time, I'm sure you'll get used to it.
That's what I've been trying to tell them. But you know men, they like to complain all the time. They're like children.
Are you telling me this one I married becomes absolutely impossible if he doesn't get what he wants when he wants it?
Are we going to spend the whole evening listening to what you think the virtues of their superiors or if they are dinner somewhere? I'm starved.
Do you see what I mean? We're guests here, Kwame. We're not in your feudal castle.
Doesn't matter. You know our constitution. So I don't need to remind you that fair presidential hunger may become a beginning of wisdom. And no one may be permitted to starve the government of Ghana to death.
Come with me, Fatia, and let's see what's happening in the kitchen. It's beginning to look like the Ghanaian government will fall if the food doesn't arrive.
I learned the ceremony went on very well this afternoon on campus.
Yes. Sorry again. It's me disturbing your viewing pleasure. I look at the time. I know I was enjoying the funeral, but it's almost the time and we don't have much time to discuss if we have to discuss anything about the Nightingale. But for me, actually, what I want us to look at, even if we don't have anything, is the role of women in this place, in what Osofisan is doing, in the whole movement of Pan-Africanism. What have we done to our mothers? What have we done to the women? Why are we no longer, or why have we not been recognizing the role or the role played by the women as much as the men? When we talk about Pan-Africanism, we talk about Nkrumah, we talk about Sekou, we don't talk about the women. Why do we think this is the reason? And I think this is why Osofisan is actually has written these plays. All the three plays are Nkrumah, Africani, A Nightingale for Dr. Du Bois, and Canoes, or Not All Canoes Sail Back Home. Maya Angelou, Maris Conde, and Effa Sutherland in Nkrumah's Ghana. Right. I hope I haven't put everybody to sleep with that funeral service. Is everybody still here? Well, this is where I'm going to hand over to German to conclude the rest of this program. German.
Yeah, well, thank you very much, Dr. Hello? I don't know if I'm being heard.
Yeah, we can hear you. You're flipping up and down on your camera.
Yeah, I just finished the presentation of Shoyinka book, so I was using the phone for something else. Well, thank you very much for hosting this, and I'm sorry for coming late. If there are comments, even from the note that you've just given us, if there are comments to be made by those who have watched the play up till now, we can make the comment now. Otherwise, it's to say thank you on behalf of.
Well, give us the chance to make the comments.
Oh, yeah, that's what I was going to. Come,
yeah.
Okay, sorry, sir.
I appreciate that we are celebrating Femi Osofisan on this occasion, but I just want to take permission to praise the production of the Nightingale. I think that's a fantastic production, very complex and complicated sets and so on. And I think we should recognize the director and producer of that performance. Thank you. That's all I just wanted to say.
Thank you, sir. The director is Segun Ojewi of Carbondale University, and the production was done in 2017 at MacLeod Theatre in Carbondale, USA.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Prof. That's
Falaba's hand is up. Yeah.
Yeah. I agree. I second the motion. It's the production is very impressive. Even though dark, but I appreciate the esoteric element he tries to bring in, and the funeral service is very good. I like how he incorporated music and the movement in, yeah. But it's a very good production, at least the bit that we saw. Regarding the question and the role of women and how women have been marginalized, almost erased from our political consciousness and current social ambiance, I think it's related to what we were discussing earlier about how there's this imposition of European values on our own ways of life, to the extent that we have now believed that we did not have anything before the Europeans came. And it was a deliberate effort by the Europeans, the colonialists, to be able to impose their own culture and ways of life. They had to erase our own. They didn't completely erase it, but we now have this collective amnesia about what we had before. And one thing that I think in our study of gender in African society has revealed is that when the Europeans came and they saw the prominent role that women played politically, socially, and especially economically, it was like an affront to them. And they used that to say, to analyze or to impute that it's a sign of our backwardness. that we do not respect our women, so that we make our women work. Whereas at that time in Europe, women were angling to work because they knew that the economic deprivation was really affecting their social participation. And so, especially in the issues of politics in the public arena, women have been sort of erased, and political affairs became the affairs of men. They're in the public. The women play, because of our own tradition, like I said, they didn't completely erase traditions, but so because of our own traditions, women still play this important part, but to keep up appearances, they remained in the background. And men, who does not like power, men sort of claim the public glory. Just to illustrate with one example, how women's roles were marginalized in the Christian something. One, I think British pastor, one English pastor, upbraided one African pastor because he allowed his wife to pursue her own career as a trader. And he said, "You are not in control of your wife. You cannot be a pastor." And the man, of course, the man wanted to be a pastor. So he forced him, he said, "Your wife must be there to take care of the parsonage." That's the compound. And this is recorded. So it's not, so, gradually like that, women just sort of disappeared from the public arena and are not appreciated for even what they in the background. We have exceptional cases like Mrs. Fumilara Ransom Kuti, Margaret Epo, but where are they? So that's one thing we have to really redress. I mean, we cannot be running a society on the half of a whole. We need a whole to run a society for everybody.
Thank you very much, Prof. As you were speaking, what was going on in my mind is the situation in the national polity, and I mean Nigerian politics. Well, the last assembly, we had more women actually in the parliament. By this election, as flawed as the election was, we had far lesser number of women. The president just released the list of the special advisors. Out of 8, only 2. We're not even sure that the next 12, because he asked for 20, that we're going to even have another 2 in the next. I mean, the list that people have been circulating has only 1. So why is it that even now we keep on perpetrating this particular flaw that we have noticed? And if you check even our creative works, if you check most of our musical videos, even in most of Nigerian films, not just Nollywood, the one we call Nollywood films, you still see this same marginalization of the women, the kind of role they give them. It's still the one that you want to question, that why are we continuing like this when we know that when we were growing up, as you just said, our mothers were more powerful. I don't think my dad was as powerful as my mom. Because all she needed to do was
even Professor Ageshoyinka speaking at this, I mean, mentioned Funlayo Rason Kuti without even mentioning our own mother.
Oh, okay.
Yes, this were powerful women. These were powerful women whose examples we are still following.
Well, even I'm glad you have mentioned it, because I was going to come in and mention her mother too.
Sorry, Auntie.
I mean, how did we come down to this level that the women we continue to push them to the back end, even in corporate Nigeria, with all the pretensions? we still know that there are so many places where the women are still not given the right of place. I mean, just to throw that in case Prof wants to address that. Hello?
Yeah, I did. Okay, let me let others talk.
Actually, I raised it so that you could address that, because that's what you just quickly touched on. I know others can piggyback on that.
Well, I was going to mention this popular play that was, again, it's in the Christian circle. You know, that's how I grew up. Another popular play that was put up by women, Christian women, when I was growing up. And it's another way of really putting women in their place, or in the new space that has been created for them. And it's called, I call it the Chumigbe syndrome.
Okay.
Chumigbe, marry me again. And so you have this wife, you know, couple, and the wife is, you know, they have a nice marriage. And then this other woman came in, sort of brainwashed the wife at home, so that that one got annoyed and left and packed out. Immediately she packed out, the other woman moved in, you know. So the wife, the former wife, then came in. And so I said, what are you doing here? But you told me. I said, oh, you're an idiot. So, you know, so she, you know, and they sort of resolved it. And so it's like, marry me again, and they dance and they're happy. But I'm saying this because it's like a mini version of another story that was written by I think early 1900 by one anonymous writer in Ghana. And what's my analysis is that in this is that it's sort of, you know, it's a way of, or it's captured how women were just removed from productive elements, for being recognized as productive elements of the society, into this corner, into this little corner of the house where they are not seen. And all their efforts and their being just directed to uplifting the man. Initially, the man understands or appreciates it, but in no time, you know, he just gets to enjoy the limelight, and then forgets the contributions that his wife made. And if I may continue, just now, I'm looking at what I call the performance of gender on social media. It is frightening what is going on. How young people, young women, how they just regurgitate this idea of women must be quiet, must, you know, they are to blame for everything, without any critical examination of course, it's difficult on social media because but it just keeps multiplying and multiplying. And it's not just in West Africa, it's common in South Africa, in East Africa. And to the extent that you're almost hating women, that's why are they so selfish and productive, and, you know, but it's, and even on platforms when we discuss this, I can see the tide of discussion shifting from our initial discussion on the platform before this inundation of gender performance, new gender performance on social media. Anyway, so that's...
Thank you very much, ma'am. Pelumi Folajimi.
Yeah, thank you, sir, for permitting me again to talk. Of course, I was enjoying the conversation. I wanted to continue listening rather than talking, because I don't want to talk too much so that I don't go off track. But I was compelled to talk again when I heard, I think it was Professor Shola Adeyemi that responded to Professor Ajayi Soyinka when she referred to Olufumi Ransom Kuti, and then the response was, "You did not even talk about your mother. Your mother also contributed a lot to that struggle." And that intervention made me to then reflect again on that struggle, the 1947 struggle, in which, apart from others, Olufumi Ransom Kuti contributed a lot. I have read a series of accounts and interventions in that 1947 tax resistance in Egbaland. Even Soyinka's Ake, Soyinka hardly talks about, of course, Professor Adeyemi responded again saying someone Kongi named a white Christian. So Soyinka says his mother was a wild Christian. But Soyinka hardly talks about the contributions of her mother to that struggle. Soyinka talks about the contributions and interventions of Olufumi Ransom Kuti, but not his own mother. Even Soyinka almost totally ignores the contributions of his own mother in that struggle. My grandmother, of course, I am an Egba man. My grandmother was involved in that struggle. Of course, my grandmother did not have the reputation and the fame, the attention of the likes of Olufumi Ransom Kuti, so nobody talks about her. And it's not only my grandmother, there were many women who fought in that struggle. We don't hear their story. We just all we hear is Olufumi Ransom Kuti and Egba women. I have taken it upon myself to now write my own history. I have learned my own history. I have learned about the contributions of my grandmother. My grandmother contributed to the universal adult suffrage. My grandmother contributed to the 1947 struggle in Egbaland. My grandmother contributed to the 1960 independence of Nigeria. I have taken it upon myself to now put my own grandmother on record. It was not only Olufumi Ransom Kuti who fought, my grandmother also did, and I will put that on record. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Pelumi.
Okay, so I think that's the kind of scholarship that we approve of. I mean, Grace Adinku, please, Dr. Adinku.
Thank you very much. Please pardon my not able to use my video. I'm in a space where I cannot expose the geographical location. But I just want to first and foremost thank the organizers of this program and the whole idea of us rethinking the role of women in our society. Because for me, this is a very crucial subject. Women, even when we look at it in a micro setting, build the home. And of course, as dramatists, as theater artists, many of us grew up performing in plays that epitomizes the power of women in our society. But again, if our history, as we're talking about these great women like Olufumi Ransom Kuti, and the likes of, her in our society, at least in Nigeria, we do have stories from the East, of the Onitsha women. We have also stories that reminds us of the powerful women like the Aminas, Queen Aminas, in the northern part of Nigeria. Let's even just look at Nigeria alone. These are all historical, strong, inspiring figures, female figures. But my worry is that these histories that we have, this collective of historical accounts of women, how has that really metamorphosed into how our thinking is today in our society. How have we been able to groom the young generation that are coming after us to be able to be conscious of the fact that we have heroines that have existed and that were powerful and they were able to play multiple roles in our society and still kept their heads high and not go half naked on the streets, all in the name of trying to subject the female body. You know, we can work more. Our generation have a lot to do. Honestly, I'm happy that Pelumi wants to write, you know, about his grandmother, but it goes beyond that. It goes beyond writing about our mothers. We all can do that, but how are we able to translate at least the knowledge that we have of our parents or our grandparents and all the powerful women, translate it into our society today? Now, here on this platform right now, I see very few women present, all right? And I have a lot of men here. And that is what is also seen, it's captured in our political arena, in Nigeria at least, just like Jama, you know, initially mentioned, you know, looking at the offices that the new president is trying to fill up. Now, the men, we women have a lot to do, but the men also have a lot to do to be able to, you know, articulate this narrative and begin to see how we can consciously imbibe some form of, I don't know how to put this now, mind sanitation of the mindset of the patriarchal society that we all find ourselves. So I just want to further, you know, kind of support all the people that have been talking about this, just to say that we just need to go a step further, not just talking about the history, but how do we then, you know, implement these historical facts and narratives to change the mindset of the young ones, the new generation coming. You know, that's all I just want to add to it. Thank you so much for the opportunity.
Thank you very much, Ademola Adeshola, and after that, Wole Olugunle.
May we also ask specifically Professor Eviroma?
Oh, okay. Okay. Before, yeah.
No.
Professor Eviroma had a response to Pelumi.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I can yield to the floor.
Okay. We're speaking. Sorry, I'm on my phone, so I'm not seeing that.
Oh, it's me, Ademola, but you said someone
on,
else wants to go. I can yield the floor.
Oh, okay.
Since she wants to respond to Pelumi.
Yeah, she wants to respond to what Pelumi said. Professor Eweroma. Hello? Hello?
Good evening, everybody.
Yeah,
good evening, Saz and Maz. I appreciate the opportunity given to me to speak. I decided to come in because the role of Mama Soyinka, or Wild Christian, as his loving son fondly called him, you know, played, not just in Egba politics, but in family politics, street politics, community politics. But since we are, you know, discussing Professor Femi Osofisan and the plays we just watched, I want to briefly talk about the three unhappy men, okay? Sekou Touré, Amilcar Cabral, and Kwame Nkrumah, who were robbed of their political destinies. And with women there, for me, it meant that they didn't just discuss mental issues. The women were also there to argue, as we saw from Andre's role, and perhaps service the libidinal needs of one of them, Andre, and her husband or partner. Furthermore, the two films tell me that Osofisan cannot be separated from the second order objects that he wishes to discuss. I saw the cover of those plays and I told myself that in Prof's lineage, we must have had some artists, painters, carvers, real artisanal people who devoted part of their time to work out symbols. We don't know if he met them, but I suspect that it runs in his blood because the affinity for the fine arts, the immense love for the creative arts, is not ordinary. That's about the cover. Even the titles also direct us one way or the other to the arts, to the performative arts, or to the literary or spoken arts. I believe that Du Bois's role in African arts, African politics, diasporan arts, diasporan politics cannot be taken for granted. And so in the play, when the masquerade executed his beats, though briefly, I wondered whether he was angry, whether he was complaining. And so it would be proper for Professor Osofisan to tell us if it was deliberate or the director, who I suspect may have brought in his authoristic role in bringing in the masquerade to link the world of the living and the dead. And so we may have to know if Osofisan was extending his global mind to a global, figure in trying to condemn that Eurocentric approach to vilifying whatever they cannot understand. What does not fit into their worldview, their monolithic worldview, is castigated. And so was that on the part of, Femi Osofisan. And so the second order links will be to gods and spirits and the artifacts of the Keno, for example. Where I come from, the Keno signifies a lot of things, In some riverine communities, women paddle canoes. They travel far, to trade and bring back goods to the community to sell. If you recall the cover of Flora Mwapa's Efuru, you see that lone paddler showing strength, showing a formidable woman who could paddle that canoe with help or without help across rivers. And so bringing that home to the three sisters that Osofisan has cleverly transported to the soil of Africa. It meant those women walked. It meant they were mobile. They were not just transfixed across the Atlantic. And then the canoe as a receptacle shows something that housed their ideas, something that had that affinity with the womb. I don't know if they all had children, but the kennel, had that link as a receptacle, as an object of transporting produce, their intellectual harvest from across the Atlantic, from America, from, is it Guadalupe or Guadalupe? Guadalupe. Prof. Ma, that word, where Conde comes from, is it Guadalupe?
Guadeloupe.
Guadalupe, okay.
Yeah.
Over here we say Guadalupe. Guadeloupe.
Guadeloupe. Yeah.
Guadeloupe. Okay. Conde from a French background, a sister from a different background, and the Ghanaian sister from the root, from the source. And so these women in When Canoes Set Sail meant that they were bold and they were strong. And to even get the canoe to sail on meant that they also had economic resources, not just mental resources, not just creativity. They also had money to be able to procure the canoe to sail on and to sail back home. Somewhere I said that if the Atlantic Ocean could talk or could speak, it would lament about the carcasses dumped by the slave traders. It will talk about the pain, the cries, the lamentation of those that, ended in the watery grave. So once again, thank you, Professor Ajayi, for, prompting me to speak. I just wanted to remain, quiet, but I believe that.
Thank you very much, Professor Everoma. And actually, talking about that masquerade in Nightingale, it's a trend, it's a strand. In Nkrumah and African, you find that there were jesters with masks. So the masks anonymized them. And in Nightingale, we have the Yoruba masquerade. But this was further extended in canoes, where we had the gelede. So the gelede performance was then used, which is, as you know, gelede is femininity, is for women, it's a women performance. This was now used rather than masquerade or jesters. So to extend this value of motherhood of women in these three plays. So, okay. Jamal, sorry to put in.
Yeah. No problem. Ademola Adeshola.
Yeah, thank you very much. Well, let me begin by thanking the organizers. Can everyone hear me, please?
Yes.
Oh, okay, good. Yeah. Thanks so much for putting this symposium together. I mean, since yesterday, it's been a wonderful outing for me, particularly listening again to Professor Adeko and then Professor Bioroma, who a while ago was attempting to give a second lecture. Yeah. But it's quite useful listening to such insight from these scholars. I want to make a couple of remarks, but before I do, I also want to acknowledge that Professor Ejino, I am seeing him for the first time, I mean, unfortunately, virtually. I read his poems as an undergraduate at OAU, and I remembered a while ago this morning when you were speaking, and my wife, who was also listening, say, "Is that from Ejino?" I said, "Yeah." And one of the things she remembers quite vividly about you is your lecture on issue. A few years ago when you came to Nigeria, I think she said it was at the National Theatre or somewhere where she listened to you. Right, so thank you very much for those good works that you have created for us, to enjoy and to think quite seriously about. Okay, that said, I want to weigh in on two subjects. The one on the whole idea around decolonialism or the decolonization and what have you, and the second on the subject of gender and the place of women, in our society. Yeah, I listened to Professor Deco yesterday, and he quite interesting thing, in which case he referenced a book that I'm even currently reading. That's Against Decolonization by Olufemi Taiwo, which I find quite provocative, and I do, in my view, probably somewhere down the line, there has to be a conference on that book, because there's a lot in it that requires, thorough engagement. It's, I mean, usually consistent with Taiwo's position. It's always provocative, and I don't think it needs to be engaged. To go back to my 2 points, first is the whole thing about decolonization is interesting. And we have talked today, as well as yesterday, about this, rate at which people are migrating, from Nigeria. And the fact that we cannot, not think of ourselves as not important in the scheme of things around the world. But there is something that I have been thinking about and that bothers me about this whole subject, about how we can get the rest of the world to think seriously about us as Africans, particularly Nigerians. And that has to do with when people leave this country, in this case, Nigeria, as they do, it's taken that wherever they are going to, life is ordered there in a way that it is not where they're coming from. And then that speaks to saying there's something wrong about where they're coming from. Now, how that consciousness, that kind of thinking can help us, to think of ourselves as capable of, contributing to the world is something that bothers me a lot. And of course, it's not that that's not the case. It is. I mean, even for those people who are living and moving elsewhere, we contribute to life in other places and contribute to progress in other places very well. But why is it that this cannot be achieved on home soil? Why is it that, and embarrassingly, one of the things the Nigerian government does very well is, of course, to celebrate those who have contributed and done very well elsewhere. So that if you are saying they're doing well elsewhere, why is it a difficult thing for those people, of course, to make such impact back home? Again, this is where the decolonization thing comes in, where we have to think about, is this a problem of the continuation of colonialism by other means, or the fact that there's something wrong with the way in which we manage our society, our statecraft, and our whatnot? And so it's something that and that's why I agree with Taiwo's that this is not a question about the continuation of colonialism in this case. It's basically the fact that we have to recognize our own agency and what role is being played in the kind of society, that we're creating. I mean, we just can't outsource the blame, to other people in this case. So that's the first point that I just want to reflect, on, which I think comes out strongly in this symposium. Secondly is the issue of women, and this is troubling. Again, Professor Shoyinka has, has spoken to how some literary works, of course, even advance, the relegation or marginalization or the invisibility of women in our society, and that's true. Literary and cultural productions, play very terrible role, in this case. And I give you just two examples. When I did my master's, I studied the literary representations of the Nigerian Civil War, particularly from female writers' perspective. And one of the things that I did was to look at how women represent the war. Certainly, one of the things I realized was that in the representations of, in the works produced by male authors, the contribution, the roles, and of course, the undertakings of women in that war, are presented in certain ways that deny the fact that there were really serious contributions from from women. But when I looked at the ones written by women, I mean, in which case I argue that there's some corrective in that kind of representation, you find out that it's more and meaningfully nuanced in the sense in which they capture some of the contributions of women, especially the attack trade and of course, the provision of food and whatnot. So there is something, there. Secondly, I'm currently researching representations of, children and warfare, particularly children known as child soldiers. One of the things that I have realized, again, is how the concept of child soldier, which is itself a very troubling and, of course, as I argue in my work, a misplaced concept, that concept also, in the sense in which it has been used, especially in the discourse, of African warfare, it is presented as if it's about male soldiers, boy soldiers. And so when you look at cover pages of text, you will find that the typical image is that of a boy wielding a gun. One of the popular novels that have come out in this area is Iweala's Beast of No Nation. Anyone who has studied that novel, I mean, well-realized piece of writing. However, you find out that in the world of that novel, there were no women. The only place where women feature is, of course, in the town of the lead character, Commandant. And how do they feature? How are they presented? They're prostitutes. They are just there for the pleasure of the men. And that's exactly what Commandant and his army actually go there to do, to seek pleasure. They are not even aware that is a war going, not to even talk about contributing anything. And what is more troubling about the representation in this novel is that this is a novel that was influenced, or if you like, inspired by a real child soldier, a former child soldier from Uganda, China Kaitetsi, who was a visitor to Harvard, and at the time when Iweala was a student, there. And she shared a story, about being involved in, incidentally, the current president of Uganda's army when he was, waging war after. So I then wonder if this fellow was inspired by the story of a woman who was an active girl soldier. How would you produce a work that invisibilizes, women? And of course, present a situation, or rather, if you like, a context in which women don't even seem to matter. And where they do matter is about the most insignificant of places. So there is, something troubling, about that, which I think that our writers, would need to be more. Of course, there are writers who are, representing women in some very interesting ways, but the point remains that in works that get celebrated in the sense in which Beast of Nation has been, it's even adapted into a movie. One thinks that the effort, roles, and of course, actions of women in various contexts need to be properly represented, so that if we are thinking about changing the narrative, or if you like, capturing the narrative as appropriately as it should be. Because I don't know of any society who will grow where what women are capable of bringing to the table, it's not taken into serious consideration. And I mean, I teach literature. And so in next school year, I've decided I'm also going to teach something that I'm looking at recently, and that is I am looking at epistolary novels by women writers in Africa, and in the Caribbean.
You should include the work of Akachi Ezebo to it.
Absolutely. I mean, I studied that.
Yeah, the war novel. Then you will see the role of women. Yeah.
Roses and Bullets. Yeah, which one of the novels I read that I analyzed in my work, at the MA level then. So in fact, I'm going forward, and I'm going to, look at epistolary novels, by women, just to make the point, to find out, what is it, how are women thinking about issues? And what you're going to realize is that we shoot ourselves in the leg when we reserve some backward, or if you like, back position, excuse me, for women in our societies. We just, robbing ourselves. German mentioned a while ago, of course, I'm sorry to say, it's not a country I take too seriously, especially its political elite, that the current, person in Aso Rock is appointing people, and there were only women in the last appointment. What does it matter if they are all women in the kind of administration that these guys are capable of running? We now know that it's not just, what we are talking about is not just numbers. We're thinking about qualities, and we have women who are, capable of holding their own any day, anytime, anywhere from that part of the world. So it's, for me, it's the issue is not about balancing gender in this case. It's also about, quality. Ambition must be made of standard stuff, Shakespeare says. So it just cannot just be women for women's sake. Just as we're saying in the West, that it just cannot be, employing Black people because you want to have your university, looked upon as a place where diversity is the key. That's not the point, So, we could go on and talk about this, but
anyway, before German comes in, German comes in to interrupt me, I will also, I thank Professor Verome for starting this yesterday. I will recommend two of our works, Female Empowerment and Dramatic Creativity. I think that was 2002, reissued in 2014, so it's still very current. And then the collection of essays, Nigerian Feminist Theater, essays on female axis in contemporary Nigerian drama. This was in 2013. So, they will be very useful to the literature areas that you want to talk about on the role of women. Well, thank you very much. Oh, sorry.
Okay.
Oh, no, yeah, my pleasure. Yeah, thank you very much for enduring my long talk there.
Thank you very much. Ademola, please check the chat room. There's a response to you there.
Okay.
So I don't need to read it. Yeah. So
Femi is my friend.
Okay. Let me have Oluchi Igili. We really want to finish by at least 7. So we have Oluchi Igili and then Wale. Okay, I'll drop off again. Wale had his hand up, but then he's no longer there. So let's have Oluchi Igili. Yes.
Yeah, thank you very much. I want to start by thanking the organizers. I've been here since yesterday, and I think I have learned quite a lot. And happy birthday once again to Professor Osofisan. I'm sorry I have to do this behind the microphone, behind the video. I hope you don't mind.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I just want to quickly say something about, in fact, on the note that Ademola stopped right now when he talked about quality in terms of women representation. And that, for me, is one thing that bothers me, because I've been in situations sometimes where I'm told to support a woman for a particular position. And the only reason I'm giving is that because she's a woman. And I look at it that I shouldn't support a woman simply because that person is a woman. It should be on the account of what that woman is bringing to the table. What is the quality that we are looking at? So if we are talking about women representation, I think we also shoot ourselves in the leg as women if all we talk about is the fact that that person is a woman, and not in terms of the quality that that person can deliver. So even in this present political situation, or in whichever situation it is, I think it's important that while we are thinking of the marginalization perhaps from the men, which is a reality to a point, it's also important that we talk about and think about the fact that we also marginalize ourselves in a way if we are not pushing our own quality out there, but depending on just the fact that this person is a woman, and therefore, for that reason, such should be given some one position or the other, should be recognized in one way or another. So that's just what I want to contribute. Thank you very much.
Okay, well, thank you, Oluchi, also for at least bringing in the celebrant, Femi Osofisan. I think it was your voice that brought him in. Welcome, Professor Osofisan. We'll be getting back to you, just as we're talking about women representation and the rest of them. Wale Olubule, please. And then I think we can then wrap with Prof, even though you just coming in. Yes.
Thank you
So
very
Wale
much.
yes.
Thank you very much for the opportunity once again. And real quick, I'd like to, start from where the last professor, where she remarked that women seem to shoot themselves in the leg. And I want to be a bit controversial that no man, no African man has ever marginalized any woman in Africa. Whether in the political space, whether in the academic space, it is women that marginalize themselves. Now, why am I saying this? From statistics, let's take Nigeria as a case study. From statistics, women has the larger population. And it takes me to what Rosemary Tong talks about, that the fact that the masses forget to realize themselves as a class, then there will always be divide and rule. Now, if African women or Nigerian women in this context can, come to the realization of what Viakari Tejeda says and apply that, which I had said earlier, the Ponce Hassa, then there will be Ponce Hassa transformer. What is Ponce Hassa? Ponce is thinking. Now, when they realize themselves that, we have been so marginalized in the political space. We have been so marginalized in the academic space. Let us, support this singular candidate for once. Now, look at this Kwara election. A lady, a female, managed to win where there are men. And this lady, she is just 26 years. It is because of the realization that, okay, thank you very much, Pelumi, 27 years. First of all, she did not look down on herself. She picked up herself, then she fought the fight and she won. As a matter of fact, at a point in time, I got this inspiration to work on Wives Strike as a literary creation. That is to say, if women can come back or can come out stronger, they will actually save Africa. They will actually save Nigeria if they bring out a candidate and the whole women in Africa or the whole women in Nigeria decide to vote for this particular woman. As a matter of fact, you will see that, former President Olusegun Obasanjo just said recently that it is time Nigeria produced a female president. And I think this is an encouragement from a man to women folk to pick up themselves, to put their houses in order, and do what? And come out. If the men, or as a matter of fact, the men would want to play some political shenanigans to, discourage them. But if they stand resolute, if they stand their ground, you can imagine if all the old women in Nigeria, they burst out to Nigerian streets, even the men will run. Men will run. Now, let me quickly come back to what Tejada say here to round up. He says, Ponce Hassa thinking and doing when the women collectively come together, then there will be Ponce Hassa transformer. What does that mean? When the women come together now for an actionable political struggle, that will allow for political, epistemic, and ontological transformation, which will move them beyond the Ponce Hassa and which will take them to Conseil Asa transformer. So it is left for African women, most especially Nigerian women, if they want to remain, marginalized, they should remain marginalized. And by extension, if Africa wants to remain marginalized, the destiny is in their hands. So if it's either they take it or they leave it. And I'm going to conclude with David Diop's poem. That's Coupilon. That say, toi qui plie, toi qui pleure, toi qui veilles sur le repos de l'autre, etc., etc. Lève-toi et dis non. So for the women that they have been crying of being marginalized, they have been crying of being subalternized, according to Beatrice Spivak, that they've been crying of, relegated to second-class citizens as Buchi and Metreka. They should stand up, pick up themselves, and say no. Thank you very much.
Okay, well, thank you very much, Wale. So it's good that we allow you to make that point. We really want to finish at 7, but Adeyinka Aderoye just put up his hand. But if you can just make it for 2 minutes, because I would like to read what. Okay, before you come in, Adeyinka, Professor Ejino just asked Wale Olugunle, what about the African man who consigned his wife to Oza room? Of course, you know that fellow. Who is now in Niger Republic, but says my wife belongs to the other room. So that's the question that Professor Ahijino was asking you. And Professor Mabel Everioma said, I agree that women should be supported, not because they are women, but because of their competence. Let me add the same criteria. The same criteria should be applied to men.
Chairman, that's not me. It's Professor.
Yes, Professor Ajayi.
Yes.
Sorry, Professor Bolabo Ajayi. I'm so sorry.
Yeah.
I agree that women should be supported not because they are women, but because of their competence. Let me add, the same criteria should be applied to men being called to serve. You want to shake table. You are trying to shake table there. There's a lot. But I didn't know it is. Please make it very brief because we have to go. Go ahead.
Thank you very much, sir. I want to say this is quite a literary space to be. I want to thank everybody that has contributed. Now, my reaction will be to what Wale Olugunle said. As much as I want to, I've always argued too that for every patriarchy that is thriving, there is a matriarchy within the patriarchy that is helping it to thrive. And this matriarchy may be made up of the wives of people who operate the machinery of patriarchy. But it is more than Olugunle is painting it. It is not that even if women want to go on a save ourselves spree, just like the question you said, sir, that someone asked, what about the man or the men that will force their women or give them boundaries of what to do? Women who know that they are at the risk of losing their homes if they go against what the husband asks them to do. So it is bigger than women. Even if women want to free themselves, there is the need for men to still allow women, especially women who have been able to prove their mettle, who have been able to prove their worth, to have their space. So it is not something a woman only or women only can do. If a man, I was asking my students one day, I asked them that if we say women was ruined, if there is a woman who is contesting against a woman and a man contesting for, say, the president of the nation, and both of them are tied by their votes, and there's only one vote left, and the vote belongs to a woman. And I asked them, who will the person vote for? Hypothetically, I picked 2 of my students. I said, your husband is contesting against a female. Both of them are tied up by votes. You have the last vote. Whoever you give the vote to wins. I said, who will you give the vote to? And she said, of course, she will give it to her husband. I said, if you really want the woman to take their space politically, you should give it to the other woman. But the question she asked me was that after giving it to the woman, how would that help her to save her home? So the situation that the Nigerian or the African woman is presently is more than what the powers of the African woman alone can take themselves out to. It has to take a collective responsibility. And that's how I think we can help women, the African women, to get out of these shackles that men, I want to say men, maybe some women collaborating with them to output them to. For me, that is my position, and I think for me that should be the way forward. That's how we have to bring our women more into the political space, because when they come into the political space, women have a way of making things work. At least, and they have been able to prove some of those things in positions where they have been. Thank you very much, sir, so much.
Yeah, thank you very much, Adeyinka Adeniroye. And a point just raised in the chat room by Pelumi Folajimi, even in the chat room and the song, the wife of the tyrannical monarch supports the wicked action of her husband. And this reminds us of what they say about widows and who are the people who make widows to suffer, especially in some cultures in Nigeria. That is actually the women that actually help to, but we cannot exhaust this discussion. We have to continue talking about them as artists and writers and thinkers. I think we have to continue to say like this. Unless there's any other, we have just 4 minutes. It is now to call Shola DME to wind it up, unless our elders are professors in the house have something to say. Professor Funshayi Jina, Falaba Ajayi Soyinka, Mabel, and anybody in the house who want to speak. Otherwise, I'll wrap up in just 2 minutes.
Chairman, I think we should sing the happy birthday song today.
Oh, okay.
Because
Yeah, I was
the
told
real
that
day.
it wasn't Prof that came in, that somebody was using his phone. Yes, we're looking at the picture now. But
yeah, he was on before. He was on at the beginning. I think he then stepped away.
Oh, somebody is using the, okay. So we can still do it.
Let me look for my shekere.
Okay, I'll go and look for my agogo.
I'm looking for my drum.
I will find a gun then.
I'm
looking for my drum.
Okay, so what we're going to lead, who has the voice to sing for us there?
Not me.
Who?
Let's have a lead singer instead of all of us singing.
Oh,
yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So who can start?
Thank you for volunteering, Mabel.
Okay.
Mabel, waiting for you. Mabel, you disappeared, waiting for you.
She went to look for a
Oh.
So maybe we don't wait for about. We have to thank. I think this is the mother-in-law, if I'm right, to Professor Femi Osofisan. Thank you, Mom, for showing up there, man. Thank you, man. We know that there's a party going on, but thank you for being there.
And while we are waiting for Mabel, I want to thank the organizers again. I think this is wonderful. Shola, German, everybody else, thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Prof. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Yeah. So, Professor Ewerioma, take the floor with your shekere. Happy birthday song. I have to remind Professor we stop singing that song because Shewere means something else. You don't
Okay. The tonality.
Remember that guy who went to enter? You know that man who went to enter that governor and they say to Sorosoke Joe Willie. So Shola, both of thanks and everything.
We need a toast too.
Okay.
So who's going to do the toast?
So who is doing the toast?
German, do it
The
now.
organizers should do the
Hey,
toast.
German, you are the organizer. You do the toast.
I hope you have
Although
my wine next week.
you didn't ask us to bring things to
I have
toast.
an empty,
How
I
can
have
one
an
toast
empty
with
glass there.
empty
I
hands?
have an empty glass there that I can just raise up. I don't know.
Yeah, that's good enough.
Okay.
Okay. My sister went to get the
I
shakere.
don't think that event
I'm
ran into
getting the wine.
Aha. So we'll be doing the e-wine to toast to the life of our father, our brother, our teacher, our uncle, our scholar, our mentor, our inspiration, our motivator, Femi Osofisan, on occasion of his 77th birthday anniversary. And for all that he has done for all of us, and for what he's still going to do, and for all the testimony that we have given, may we all be celebrated too, just as we are celebrating our father. Hip, hip, hip.
Hooray.
Hip, hip, hip.
Hooray.
Hip, hip, hip. Hooray.
Happy birthday.
Happy birthday, Professor Osofisan.
Happy birthday, Professor Osofisan.
Yeah, we all can say that. You can say it individually, so it's on record. Happy birthday.
Happy birthday, Professor Femi Osofisan.
Happy birthday,
Commander.
Happy birthday to Femi Osofisan.
Prosperity.
Okimbala Nko.
Lanko.
We thank you very much. Ibadan Literary Society will be calling on you again. If you have we have shared the
Yeah,
and then
I've shared in the chat the video, but I'm still going to send it. I mean, I told them you're going to send everything by email.
It's saying not available.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that's why I said German is going to send it and make it everything available.
Okay.
Maybe it will be sent to our emails.
Drop your email address.
Yeah.
That's some of the email. You can drop it so that we can share directly with you in your email. You can drop your email addresses so we can also share it. Yes.
But German, you had our email addresses for registration.
Registration.
No, I mean those who did not. Oh, okay. Shola, the ball is now back in your court. So we have the email address. We share with everyone. Yeah, we do that.
If you try now, you find everything is now available. You know, it's my fault. I set the time for it to be available for 7 p.m.
Oh, okay.
On the YouTube and the Vimeo so it should be available now. The video should be available.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Well,
so thank you very much, everybody. We'll be calling again on you.
Bye-bye, everyone.
Next year.
Bye.
With the Ibadan Literary Society. Thank you. We really appreciate your presence and contributions to this symposium, 2-day symposium, which has actually bloomed into a conference instead of just a symposium. And see some new faces, I see some old faces, and the new faces that I've seen makes me feel so confident that my future is secured. All the fights that we have been fighting for, that my pros, Regina and Ajayi Shoyinka, Osofisan, Shoyinka, everybody has been fighting for, has not been in vain. We now have people like Pelumi, like Wale, like Adeyinka, all of them. You know, I'm sure Mabel too is going to be smiling that yes, all my fights, now I have people to carry on the fight and to succeed even better than we have done. So it's really enlightening, heartwarming to hear some of what has been said yesterday and today. And we're so happy, we're delighted about the Literary Society for actually conceiving this idea of for doing this, you know, and we'll be inviting you again next year. Thank you very much indeed, German.
Thank you. Thank you.
Bye-bye, everyone.
Bye.
Bye-bye, sir. Bye-bye, ma.
Yeah.
Bye-bye.
Only we're looking at your proposal. We'll do it. Okay?
Okay, sir.
Yeah.
Okay, sir.
Thank you.
Bye, sir.
Bye.